for her to be transformed. When she asks how long she'll be underwater, his reply is, as long as it takes. The reason is that you have to be clinically dead before you are transformed.
I need to see what she saw.
You do this, there's no turning back. You see them. They see you. Lie down.
What do you mean, lie down?
You have to be fully submerged.
For how long?
As long as it takes.
After rising out of the water, her senses are so heightened that they immediately begin leading her around. She also finds herself instantly illuminated, now understanding all of the mysteries of her previous life. In fact, water is used more than once in the movie to describe death and body transformation. Sometimes, when the storyline demands, the character will be arriving by ship from the sea instead of rising out of the water. This brings us to the stories of David S. Goyer. David Goyer has written the story for movies such as The Puppet Masters, Blade 1 through 3, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, The Unborn, and contributed to Jumper. I have already discussed symbolism in Batman in previous documentaries. I've also reviewed symbolism in David Goyer's Blade series, so I'll keep it short by pointing out this single, relevant scene from Blade Trinity. In this scene, Dagon, or Dragula, is shown disappearing from the world. In the movie, Dagon is described as having wrought murder and suffering upon the world for ages, and then suddenly vanishes. Water symbolism is used to describe what was actually his death. Another movie David Goyer was involved in was Jumper. Jumper is about a guy named David Rice, who finds out that he has the ability to teleport himself across vast distances simply by imagining his intended destination. He first discovered that he had these powers the day he fell into a partially frozen lake. The intense fear brought on by the prospect of drowning in ice-cold water triggered his first teleport. After that, he runs or teleports away from home, leaving all those who knew him believing that he had died in the frozen lake. He goes on a crime spree, eventually meeting up with another teleporter. Then there's a Luke Skywalker moment where he finds out that his mother is a big cheese in a group that hunts jumpers just like him. What's important here is the use of water symbolism, going underwater and coming out with extra abilities. In the movie, the character doesn't actually die, but the writers dropped hints about what has actually happened by having all the townspeople thinking that David had died in the lake. Another David Goyer movie is The Crow, City of Angels. The Crow, City of Angels is about a guy named Ash, who along with his son are murdered for witnessing a crime. Both are thrown into the water, but while there, Ash comes back to life and rises out of the water with incredible strength, speed, and a body that's impossible to kill. After a brief freakout caused by finding out that he had been killed, he goes on to avenge his own death by killing one criminal after another, working his way up to the man ultimately responsible for his and his son's death. Finally, you have David Goyer's Unborn. The Unborn contains the standard symbolism you'd expect from any insider story. Similar to The Man Who Would Be King and Stargate, the Unborn includes a charm adorned with the all-seeing eye that was given for a source of protection. This is known as the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus, or the Wadjet, is an Egyptian symbol of protection. The Wadjet was commonly associated with the Egyptian goddesses Bast, Hathor, and Sekhmet. Sekhmet, who is also known as the Eye of Ra, was typically spoke of as an ultimate weapon. In Hollywood Insider's Full Disclosure, I spoke of Asmodeus, the highly intelligent villain in purple who is associated with the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, and betrays those he's working with. Oftentimes, this villain or villainous organization is associated with not only the colors purple, but purple and red. This color combination is from the Bible and is a reference to the Whore of Babylon. The Whore of Babylon is a character or location in the Bible who is associated with black magic, economics, and the trafficking of souls. A Bible verse in reference to the Whore of Babylon from Revelation chapter 17 verse 4 states, "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication." The verse states that this entity is associated with the colors purple and scarlet. Scarlet is red with a slight hint of orange. The Hollywood Insider series has reviewed only a few movies relative to how many are out there, and still, the color combination purple and scarlet appears several times. Here are the instances of purple and red from movies covered by this series. In The Man Who Would Be King, Danny's wife wears purple and red. Homer and the rest of his stonecutters / Freemasons are decked out in purple and red. Ra, the sun god from Stargate, wears purple and red. Michael, while impersonating a god, has purple and red on. In Batman, both Jack Nicholson's Joker and Heath Ledger's Joker wear purple on the outside, red on the inside. In 10,000 BC, the main villain wears purple and red. In Gabriel, when Archangel Gabriel enters the headquarters of the villains, the background alternates between purple and red. In The Crow, City of Angels, virtually the same thing, with an all-seeing eye to boot. In Pocahontas, the villain wears, you guessed it. Still don't believe me? That's okay. This TV show, which played on Cartoon Network, illustrates my point better than all of that anyway. This is Minority, which was part of Cartoon Network's Adult Swim lineup of 2005. The show contains loads of racist jokes that are actually pretty funny, and revolves around a group of minority superheroes. There's a Jew, a black guy, a Mexican, an Indian, and a Chinese Charles Xavier.
Es la única manera sacar que viva la raza!
You go in, distract club members with break dancing.
That's done, baby.
Guy.
Where the party at? I heard there was a party up in here. Yeah, check this out. Ha! Ha! Ha!
The whole show reminds you of an animated version of the Illuminati card game. The villain of the show, a guy called the White Shadow, has a pyramid for a head with a single eye, and runs a criminal organization from atop a phallic tower.
Nothing like bathing in tears after a hard day of evilness. How many times are we going to use snakes to try to kill non-stop? Anyone? Anyone? I have to say, in my professional opinion, money-wise, bang for the buck-wise, snakes have to absolutely be the worst way to kill people.
Great.
What's more is that him, his lair, and all his goons are dressed in purple and red. Coincidence, I'm sure. And to give you a little peek into this guy's personality, this episode says it all. In this episode, the White Shadow successfully dispatched the Minority and had the heroes captive on a far-off planet. But in their absence, the White Shadow becomes bored, so he uses his own spaceship to rescue his enemies, just so he'll have someone to fight.
Get in.
I'm a Chinese. You're not liking me, remember?
Minority team, get in the freaking ship now.
Another reoccurring character is the Lady in Red. The Lady in Red has always represented an infinitely alluring seductress. Her name is Venus. Her general characteristics are as follows. May show an act of loyalty to the main character, and may have been placed in his way just to seduce and manipulate him. Typically depicted as a criminal, extremely vain, a girl that likes money, had multiple marriages, at some point may go bad, and finally, either working for a villain or dating one. Even though it has no value regarding Illuminati symbolism, the movie The Woman in Red is still worth mentioning. The Woman in Red is about a loser, played by Gene Wilder, who becomes infatuated with the woman in red. And you know he's a loser because his 40-year-old friends act like 17-year-olds, and his wife is cheating on him with this guy. In the movie, the woman in red has no agenda to seduce Gene Wilder, but since these two sleep together by the end, the logical mind is forced to conclude that the movie excluded that part, and that there was indeed some horrible scheme to seduce Mr. Wilder. Because I mean, come on. This cartoonishly lopsided Lady in Red matchup is reminiscent of other cartoonishly lopsided Lady in Red matchups like Roger Rabbit and Jessica Rabbit, or how about Arthur Miller and Marilyn Monroe? And, as it turns out, the woman in red is dating a pretty scary guy. I only bring up the movie to point out the Lady in Red character and her typical role as the ultimate seductress. A more relevant example of the typical Lady in Red character can be found in the new Sherlock Holmes movie. In the movie, a character named Irene Adler, first seen in a red dress, has been charged with the task of seducing Sherlock Holmes. This job was bestowed upon her by the ultimate villain in what is most likely the next Sherlock Holmes movie. She is almost a prototypical Lady in Red. She shows an act of loyalty to the main character, was sent to seduce him, described as a criminal with multiple marriages, and was working for a villainous figure. At the beginning of Sherlock Holmes, Detective Holmes is arriving to a prison where a prisoner, Lord Blackwood, the movie's antagonist, is about to be executed. Upon arriving to Lord Blackwood's cell, he finds Blackwood reading a passage from the Bible.
Blasphemy. They worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? The beast which I saw was like unto a leopard.
The passage Lord Blackwood is reading from is from the book of Revelation, and gives us our first clue as to the identity of the two characters currently on screen. This part of the Bible describes two beasts that will arrive at the end times. The first is a beast which will rise out of the sea. Afterwards, a second beast rises out of the earth. Because both beasts will be worshipped, what is essentially being described here are two antichrists. The second beast, the beast of the earth, uses a series of false miracles to make the entire world worship both beasts. The first beast, Sherlock Holmes, would end up being a hero for neutralizing Blackwood twice, and the second beast, Lord Blackwood, along with what is obviously the Freemasons, would attempt to use a series of false miracles to convince others that he had divine power. As the movie comes to a close, it becomes clear that Blackwood actually wanted an alliance with Sherlock Holmes. After his resurrection, Blackwood perpetrates a series of murders that leaves Sherlock Holmes baffled, so the detective turns to more unorthodox means to solve the case. He goes about doing a ritual that will give him insights that will help him solve the case, and by the next morning, he finds himself illuminated to not only the nature of the case, but things involving ancient history as well. There are in fact spells and rituals that can give one insights to mysteries or dilemmas that they face. The practitioner will find themselves flooded with images and concepts related to the question they've asked. Although their predictions aren't perfect, some demons can calculate the odds of a certain event occurring.
The fraternity, who silently control the empire, share the belief with the kings, pharaohs, and emperors of old that the Sphinx was a door to another dimension, a gateway to immeasurable power. It's made up of 4 parts: the foot of a lion, the tail of an ox, the wings of an eagle, and the head of a man.
The 4 animals spoke of in the previous scene, the lion, the ox, the man, and the eagle, is once again from the Bible. Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 10 describes 4 living beings, each looking like one of the aforementioned animals. And in Revelation chapter 4, verse 7, nearly the exact animals are mentioned again. Sherlock Holmes is clearly a loaded retelling. Well friends, I hope you found this video eye-opening. I hope you have a better understanding of how the Illuminati retell their traditions in movies and the symbolism used to convey these retellings. I urge you to watch some of the movies I've reviewed here with a bit more open eyes. I also urge you to watch this documentary's predecessor, Hollywood Insider's Full Disclosure, for the details I've skipped in this video. I've went through great pains to bring you this documentary series and teach you what I know about the Illuminati, and all I ask in return is that you inform others what you know. If not this sector of truth, symbolism in movies, then some other sector of truth. Everything that ever was started in the mind of one person, and sometimes that one person is you. So, keep learning, but more importantly, keep teaching. That's it from me. Take care, friends, and good luck.